What's up? What's up, y'all? It's your boy, Brother Phil, Soul of a Nerd, back once again. Uh, Here we are. It's been a while, and it's December 17th, 2021, and you know what that means. Hence the shirt. And before I get started, I don't really have a sponsor, but I'm giving free plugs, shouting out. I don't know if this is a nationwide chain, but here in Ohio, Northeast Ohio, Robex Smoothies. This one was called Muscle Max or something like that. It's got protein and blueberries, banana, pineapple, uh, and a shot of energy in it, which I'm going to need all of that because, like I said, or like I alluded to real quickly, you see this? Tonight it goes down. This is the release day of Spider-Man No Way Home. I have to be thinking about that, Far From Home, No Way Home. It's easy to slip those, interchange those. But anyway, that's really not the subject here because I will be coming live with probably some immediate reactions. I'm going to see a 10 o'clock show. So it's actually 6:12, like literally 4 hours from now, counting. I'll be in that reclining chair in the movie theater to check out this movie. So I will post some immediate thoughts. I'm pretty sure coming out of that theater, come around midnight. It's gonna be a late night, but this is a purpose of this video is a long awaited discussion for myself. And I think I've mentioned this in other videos if you follow me. And that is been meaning month after month to do a state of the MCU video. I just feel like we're in phase four. You know, there's been a lot of changes. Like Endgame changed the game. I mean, for the MCU, for the universe. And we already knew it was going to be a lot of adjustments to be made going forward in phase four. And some of those have already begun. So, uh, getting through what's going on in the world with COVID and movie releases and everything being delayed, and then getting Disney Plus entering into the scenario, the Disney Plus stories. Phase four has been off the hook in a lot of ways, and therefore, it made me realize it would be cool, fitting probably, to do a state of the MCU, like a State of the Union address. Um, so I'm doing one on my own. I mean, this is a type of discussion you could definitely have a great convo with other geeks and nerds of the genre, as well as people who are really into the MCU in particular. So I am, an admitted MCU mark or a nerd. I won't even call myself a mark really, because I'm a little more critical of them than I think a mark would be. So, but I'm not very critical because I like most of what they do. So I guess in a way, to somebody, I am a mark because I probably don't have enough criticisms, but I think I have enough. So I don't consider myself a mark, but I'm definitely a fan. I'm definitely a nerd of the MCU because I really do pay attention and study the history and remember it, and in meaning on screen and behind the scenes, I am into what's happening. So, um, so I feel like I'm pretty qualified to bust out a state of the MCU discussion on my own. So leave comments in the comments section. Leave some thoughts in there, and see what you say. Think about what I'm talking about, and hey, maybe I get a second round going, and do another one of these, and bring in some other thoughts and other people to share the screen with me here. So let's get into this. And I just, oh, here's another thing, timing is everything. Because I first had this idea around the time Black Widow came out. Because by the time Black Widow came out, I always have to give a little bit of background as to what led into this video that you're watching. I mean, we started out with WandaVision. Then we had Falcon and Winter Soldier. Then we had Black Widow hit theaters. Then we had Loki, the series, and then we had Shang-Chi, then Eternals, and now we have currently Hawkeye on its fifth episode, and there's only one left. So it's really, and then we have Spider-Man Homecoming releasing today, which from kind of early on with the rumors and I don't know, scoops, I'll call them scoops about Spider-Man No Way Home. Also, the announcement of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, the fact that it was kind of confirmed that Doctor Strange will make an appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home. It was like they were already hinting at multiverse and some things like that. So you kind of knew things were going to get set set on its head, so to speak. And at what point, even like I said, with WandaVision coming out the gate in January. So by the time we got two series under wraps, WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then we got to see the first theatrical uh, entry into the Phase 4, which was Black Widow. Um, at that point I was like, wow, okay, so we've got some nice pieces of new direction. And that was around the time that I actually had the thought of doing a state of the MCU. Oh, plus he started getting more announcements like the the Disney Plus series that they were announcing, which is why I'm making this video. Because I'm gonna kind of address few of these things. You got announcements for Moon Knight as a series. We got new announcements on Blade's development. We got new announcements on Black Panther's production schedule. What else? Um, oh, She-Hulk, uh, Ironheart. What else? What's another show? So there were some new announcements of series and things like that that also have happened since 2021 began. That it's like, yeah, this thing needs to, like, we really need to sit down and discuss everything that's happening. And I think, because that was around the time that the Spider-Man Far From Home rumors really started jumping off too. It's hard to believe here we are in December because that was early. That was like the beginning of this year, I think, when those first uh, big, you know, scoops started coming out about Toby and Andrew Garfield and Charlie Cox playing Daredevil and all these things started popping up. And so yeah, that made me say, yeah, there's a whole like Marvel started slamming us with kind of big stuff. Like they've had a masterful 2021 in my opinion. The way they were dropping, news about the shows they're doing, um, casting, casting announcements, uh, along with releasing the material they had to release, which was like I said, having Kang appear in Loki, things like that. They've been great on both ends or all ends, I should say, with dropping their material, giving you previews of what's coming, and then making announcements on things that are down the road, but giving you these very significant announcements about casting, like I said, directors, titles of movies, shows we're about to do next, and to keep that anticipation going. So that was one of those things where, like I said, it made me think I need to do a state of the MCU video. It was particular also like right around the time Black Panther. I can't even remember what the announcement is now, but it was something that came out about Black Panther that made me think also. earlier this year that it's time to address this. So I'm trying to think what was the big announcement came out about Black Panther earlier this year. Anyway, that's water under the bridge. I miss those opportunities because life. I do have a life. I do music production. I teach music production, so on and so forth. So that being said, it's time. I think the timing really is right now because with each passing series or movie that came out, particularly once Loki dropped, I thought Loki was a kind of a series that make you really want to reassess the MCU. Obviously, introducing the sacred timeline and all that stuff. Um, but I'm not gonna say Shang-Chi made me feel that way. Um, it didn't. It was just a new story. Didn't really revolutionize anything in the MCU. And then Eternals, that was a point where I, excuse me, it felt like, hey, might be time to do a State of the MCU video. But all the while I kept thinking, well, shoot, as long as you still have Spider-Man for No Way Homecoming, as long as you still have the movie coming called Spider-Man No Way Home, you might as well consider there's always I probably would have still had to do another State of the MCU event video because I just think there's going to be so much significant change coming out of that movie, and I still do. So I'm gonna give some predictions on that movie here too as well, um, before I go see it. So let's start from the beginning here. This is gonna kind of be like me reviewing what's come this year, some of the announcements, how I feel about them, because of course that will be the state of the MCU. I guess I could go chronologically. I think I will. Let's do it like that. So, also I'm going to look ahead at the schedule, the schedule of releases that are still coming. Just again, we want to keep all of these things in mind as far as where we're going, what we look forward to, because this is the MCU. Everything is connected basically, and it's in case of stuff leading into the other. You can't take any one show or one movie for granted. Hold on, sorry. Hey, this is real life, baby. I gotta communicate with my kid at work. We're gonna be picking up Chinese food for dinner before she and myself and my lady go out to see this movie. So just confirming that stuff. You know what I'm saying? She's at work, my daughter. So I'll be picking up that Chinese food in about an hour. Um, so let's go with it. For the record, anyone who watched my review videos on the series, I absolutely loved WandaVision. I think WandaVision, even right now, is my favorite piece of MCU content for Phase 4 so far. I would say bar none. Like, it's definitely my favorite of the Disney Plus series. Again, by far. Um, then, behind that, as far as what I've enjoyed so far with Phase 4, probably I'll go with Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I think if you would ask me right now which movie would I want to throw in, the three movies that came out this year, it would be Black Widow. But I am a Black Widow mark, and I'm a Scarlett Johansson mark, and I'm becoming a Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova mark, which I'm gonna get into that in just a second. So, I like Shang-Chi, but I wasn't as blown away as a lot of people. Um, I really did like it, but it's not. It didn't really crack the top five MCU movies or anything like that for me. And I'm not even sure if I would say it was top 10. Good movie though. Good origin story. Um, solid movie all the way around. But yeah, WandaVision again is my crowning jewel of the Phase Four MCU so far. Uh, but let's go chronologically. Not to say too much about it. I just love WandaVision. I love the introduction of or reintroduction, the introduction of adult Monica Rambeau. Phenomenal. Love Tiana Paris. Looking forward to see more of her. Uh, love and have even more love and appreciation for this character Scarlet Witch and Elizabeth Olsen playing her. She's probably my favorite female woman character in the MCU now that Natasha's gone. I mean, it's not even probably. She definitely is. I mean, I love Evangeline Lilly as Wasp. You know, again, love I love these. I love their casting, and I just like I really enjoy these actors and actresses. But yeah, Wanda's my that's my girl. Um, so let's move on. Great show, loved it. Set everything off. And when you think about how these shows weren't even supposed to be released in movies in this order, if I'm the nerd that I am, let me try this. I'm pretty sure. Well, obviously, Black Widow was supposed to come out in 2020. So back in May of 2020, we were supposed to see, from what I can remember, we were supposed to see Black Widow in May of 2020. So really, she was kicking off Phase Four because there wasn't going to be anything from January through through May that I can remember. From what I can recall, it was going to be Black Widow. Then it was going to be Falcon and Winter Soldier. Then it was going to be WandaVision. Then Loki, and then Hawkeye, I believe. And I guess considering Hawkeye is set around Christmas, they probably did always intend that was going to be late in the year. Oh, you know what? No, let me rethink that because Hawkeye might have last year. So maybe that's not what's gonna. I have to think about that. Maybe Falcon and Winter Soldier I think was supposed to come out before WandaVision, but you can see the connection because of Julia Louis Dreyfus's character popping up in both. You can see they were intended for those. Not that they're really connected, but they're ground level. It's still dealing with like the government and Shield and agencies. Uh, Natasha's past with the Widow program and all that. But yeah, that's kind of what I remember. I don't really think there was going to be anything that was supposed to drop before May. I don't think. Even that sounds odd. Like maybe Falcon Winter Soldier was supposed to come out in January, February of 2020. I can't remember. Um, and then it would be interesting. I could probably research the well, they were loose about because COVID hit before they really had a chance to commit to certain dates. But I definitely remember they were using the season. Like I remember they would say spring of 2020. Yeah, see, I remember that Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to come out in spring of 2020. I remember that. So spring would be around May. So they probably really intended for it to come out in March or April. And then they had to break production because of COVID. Finishing up production, and that was when the whole thing happened where for whatever reason, they were shooting both of these shows at the same time. And that is Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision. They were able to resume production on WandaVision first. Therefore, they finished it first and they released it first. But that was what I remember was supposed to happen. And then, of course, um, Eternals was going to drop in November of 2020. And I think at that point, we were probably going to get WandaVision, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere around there. So and Loki. I think Loki was supposed to drop in the summer of 2020. I think it was gonna be kind of how they did. Like some of them rolled right into the other. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to roll into um, WandaVision. Then Loki would have rolled into WandaVision, which would have rolled into Eternals. I think that's the MCU's original plan, and then Hawkeye would have came out, at probably around this time after November, after Eternals was released, because Eternals was supposed to come out in November of 2020. I'm sure about those movie release dates. So there you go. So going into 2021, we probably would have gotten. That's a good question. Shoot, we might have been getting WandaVision actually. So maybe it was going to be Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, and Hawkeye in 2020. I think that makes more sense if you think about it. Then WandaVision in early 2021, but it was finished earlier. Well, what happened was everything was 2021 anyway. So they were basically on schedule. So that's kind of what happened. They were on their normal schedule anyway. So there you go, January 2021. Because realistically, if anybody remembers, we should have had um, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness should have came out this year. It was supposed to be March of 2021, um, as well as Thor: Love and Thunder, and of course Spider-Man. Spider-Man was going to be and Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi was supposed to come out February of this year. Then it would have been Thor: Love and Thunder, and then Doctor Strange, something like that. And then we would have gotten, um, like I said, WandaVision somewhere in there, since WandaVision is going to have a connection to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which at this point, that's kind of the unfortunate thing. Is WandaVision came out so long ago now. We're not getting Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness till May of next year. So we're literally going to have a year and a half between those two movies. I mean, those two projects, which is, that's kind of tricky, but it's happened with the movies before. So fortunately, Marvel's studios, the storytelling and their loyalty from their fans like me is what they can kind of rely on. That we're gonna be there. We'll be there when the time comes. Because if you think about it, that's like the space between um, uh, uh, Avengers: Age of Ultron and um, dang, what's wrong with me? Captain America: Civil War. Those movies are basically a year apart, and they're really a continuation or connected stories. So here you go. So it won't be that bad, but it does seem weird when you think about it, and especially since I'm quite sure that's not how they intended it. Like I just think I laid out kind of probably how it was intended to be connected in sequence. But that being said, and then Spider-Man No Way Home would have actually come out July of this year. Instead, we're getting it 5 months later. Um, and of course, everything got moved back twice because at one point Black Widow got moved to the November date of 2020 in place of uh, uh, Eternals. Eternals gets moved back, and then they just had to say nothing came out in 2020. So now we're just starting over, and yeah, we're gonna just use May of 2021 as a reset date for Black Widow, and that's where we are now. So it's almost like some of these movies lapped the other ones. Like Black Widow's literally coming out after Shang-Chi should have come out. So even storyline wise, fortunately, they're very independent movies. But yeah, realistically, Shang-Chi should have been out, a year or so ago. Like I said, of course, Black Widow should have been out a year and a half ago. So that's where we are with that. Uh, like I'm one of those people probably like Black Widow more than most people. I liked the introduction or addition, whatever you call it, to her family, doing the backstory. People feel like, why do we need a movie for a character that's dead and going backwards? I'm not that guy. Like, my biggest critique of that movie was some plot convenience. Not the most impressive use of the Taskmaster villain, but unfortunately, it's kind of what Marvel does sometimes, like the original, Mandarin storyline, trying to add a twist. There was a little anticlimactic for it to be that guy's daughter who got blown up, and he turns her basically into almost a daggum cyborg. It was a little weak. Um, but in that guy himself, the villain, like his motivation for why he was doing what he was doing at that point in the movie was a little, could have been better, definitely. But the highlight of that movie by far for me was introduction of Yelena. Um, I mean, I fell in love with that character. Like she was not. I don't want to say hilarious because it's not to even sound like this stuff is comedic. But I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just messing with my face. But she was great. Like the charm, the wit, the dryness. Like she was a believable character. Like culturally, didn't come across like she was American. Seemed like a person like the story's telling, like who's really been a trained killer, who's kind of cold, calculating, unemotional. But when we see the backstory of Natasha and her family, she did have sentimental, memories of being a child and all that stuff. So that that was the best thing about that movie to me, was introducing that character. And I mean, Scarlett Johansson and Natasha are hard acts to follow and shoes to fill. In Marvel Studios, again, it's like they did it again because the casting and just the way they're writing this character is great. I'm I mean, like I was fully walked out of that movie like, oh, I'm looking forward to this young lady's future in the MCU. Like it was basically the same way I felt when Black Widow popped up in Iron Man 2. Except I'm maybe even more impressed because I had little expectation. Whereas, I was already a fan of Scarlett Johansson when they introduced her. That when we found out she was going to be playing the role. Um, love Yelena. Like seriously, if I never did a video review on Black Widow because frankly at the time, I wasn't that motivated. It was a weird state, like the energy, and I think some of y'all probably can relate. Like we kind of sapped of that excitement, that hype to just want to run out and talk about stuff. It's taken a while for me to get back into that groove when there's so many things going on in the world, and distractions, and just concerns about how we even enjoy the stuff that we are accustomed to enjoying. So that being said, yeah, I never really rushed into the idea of doing a review video, but had I done one, y'all would have heard me raving about Yelena Belova and Florence Pugh in her portrayal. Um, so that's Black Widow. Again, I highly enjoyed it though. I thought it was worth them doing a movie. Um, good story. I mean, like the character moments. This is what the MCU is known for. So yeah, I could critique the storyline, the villain, plot holes, but the action was dope. The the levels of humor was great. The performances were great. David Harbour, everybody. Like so, acting and performance wise, you can't really knock anything about it. You could just have some critiques of the storyline and some of the, trying to make some of the motivations make sense for what was happening. Um, Post-credit scene, set up Yelena to go further in the MCU, and again, you saw what the heck is her name? I guess I'm not the comic book nerd guy, but I'm Madam Hydra. That's who this lady is, or something like that. Um, so Julia Louise Dreyfus' character, who by the time we saw Black Widow, we had seen Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I just skipped by. My bad. Falcon and Winter Soldier was a good show. In retrospect, to be honest, now that I've watched Loki and we're almost done with Hawkeye, I have a greater appreciation for Falcon and Winter Soldier because coming behind Wanda, it felt like a slight step down. I didn't enjoy it as much, but I did. It was good. Like it was very good. Action was good. The tone of it was good. The topics that they tackled, Black Captain America, That stuff. Love that. It was they showed us they could go a little dark and serious and a little more gritty. Let's put it like that. Introduction of John Walker. Uh, yeah, all of that hit for me. Developing Bucky and Sam's characters. So this is what I'm saying. It was a little tougher because it wasn't as imaginative or out there. That's which I mean, everything doesn't have to be, and why would it be? This is a grounded story, but just by that nature, I naturally wasn't gonna like it as much. Like I wasn't even really anticipating the show that much, just because I felt like it was gonna be standard MCU action, maybe a little more, intense, you know, grounded storyline, and it was, and so that's good. But that wasn't my most anticipated concepts uh, to look forward to. So so again, I had I ranked it high, but it's just coming behind WandaVision. I was not at it was My reaction was a little lackluster, I would say. And I did do some episodic reviews. I'm pretty sure that I have on the page. But then when Loki came along, man, and I wasn't really anticipating that one too much because to me it was like Loki, we've seen you. I didn't even know why they necessarily should do a series on Loki. Personally, love Tom Hiddleston, love the character, but I kind of felt like him being killed in Endgame. I mean, Infinity War was kind of like, yeah, you had a good run, you know. And so when they opened that loophole for him in Endgame, I can't even lie. I was a little bit like, oh boy. And actually, because remember, the series had been announced already. The series Loki had been announced before. Wait, let me think about this. Let's just put it like this. Either they announced the Loki series before Endgame, which I think they did, because at the time you were kind of like, why are they telling us they're going to have a Loki series when he just got killed? If that wasn't the case, the point is, the moment I remember when he picks up the Tesseract and sucked out and disappeared, I either I made the connection when they said they're making Loki series. I was like, oh well, it's going to be based on what happens to him after he picked up the Tesseract, or they had already announced it, and then when I saw that moment in the movie, I said, well, that's what's going to be leading us into that series. You see what I'm saying? So either that happened in the movie, then they announced the series, and I already knew, oh, remember when he picks up the Tesseract, that's what the series is going to be about, or I already knew they were doing a series, and then when I saw him pick up the Tesseract and disappear, I was like, oh, well, there's what the series is about. So either way, the moment in Endgame is where he does get a chance to have a continuation of some sort. So let's talk about that series. Um, Again, I wasn't highly anticipating it. I remember the first trailer I saw for it, I liked. The second trailer I saw for it, I loved. I mean, I remember being blown the hell away by the second trailer. I was like, okay, I want to see this now. Just the camera, like lighting and visual tone was really weird. Like it felt like some real sci-fi, nothing like visually you'd seen in the MCU before. And then just even the tone of the way these people were talking, like it was going to be some real oddball, not even like comedic, but just quirky, um, sci-fi type stuff. And it was those first 2 to 3 episodes, but as a whole, yeah, that show it's forgettable for me. Like a lot of stuff got real. I don't know. It was just very eh. The introduction of what's her name? Dang, let me see. Let me think about this. Starts with an S. I'm looking at the show right here, or the a website talking about the upcoming projects. Why am I not Sylvie? Okay, so I said it started with an S. Yeah, the introduction of Sylvie. I didn't really even care for this character. I didn't necessarily care for the actress. I remember thinking this again. I didn't do a weekly episodic review. I wanted to, because like I said, the first couple episodes, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go on ahead and do some reviews on this one because if it was really good, it would make me want to review it. But by the time I got, free enough to do one, they had like whatever episode there was where I just like, oh, and then each episode following. The thing about Loki, it was a very slow. It felt like it was a very slow moving. I don't want to say dense, but it was really the mythology they were building was really kind of, it was a grind. It's like a lot of just abstract, concepts they were trying to introduce. And I don't know that they were doing the best job of doing it in a way where it was clicking and made you want to hear more, you know? Like the conversations that Loki and Sylvie were having, for example, where they're kind of trying to lay out how these different timelines of variants work. It was boring me. Like I wasn't really that impressed with. They weren't really doing a good job of setting why I should care or be excited about what it is they're talking about. Like, opening your mind, like, wait a minute. If this is how timelines work, then what is it? I wasn't having those moments. Um, and that's where I think they fell flat. And it probably was dialogue based. Like, if they had just written maybe the dialogue between them a little bit better, it almost felt like the writers and producers didn't really know what they wanted this what was the mythology, what is the actual science or spirituality or whatever you want to call it behind what the heck they're trying to set up. So that's what it was. Like the sacred timeline, even that name sounds dope. In what I got, maybe I go back and watch Loki. Maybe it would click the second time around. But the way they were describing the way variants work, the way my man Mobius and these agents deal with this stuff, it was not working. Like I was expecting at some point it was gonna have a moment where it's like, damn, this is some dope, science. This is a dope concept. But it's a good concept on paper. Like a sacred timeline that these shoot, what is the word? Something events. Ah man. It'll come to me. The maybe I'm gonna look it up over here. But the things that happen, what do they call them? Oh man, the things that happen when people do certain things that are game changers in the timeline. Which again, the theory is that Wanda and her creating the hex was one of these events. The fact that Loki and Sylvie almost, well, they did fall in love with each other. Nexus, there we go. Haha, I knew I'd come up with it. A Nexus event. So again, it's like all of this stuff sounded dope. Nothing you've heard about the MCU, talking about expanding things. That part was great. It's like the concepts and the terms sounded great, and the material from Loki, the series, did not live up to a Nexus event, a sacred timeline, the multiverse that they talked about, branches of the multiverse, and in a multiversal war. Heck, even the concept of the one who remains, that was probably the most interesting thing running throughout this with the what were they called? The timekeepers? Yeah, that was a good moment when they reached those three and it turns out they're robots. That was probably like the one time where they were like, oh, where they did something that made me feel like, okay, man, this is dope. And again, to be honest, I'm not gonna say it was anticlimactic. It's just for that to be what happened, and then it results in there's one guy who's the one who remains. It's weird. It's weird because again, I thought that was the name, the one who remains, in this concept of running now. It's like so. This is this one person who's running this, and how are they? Who are they, and what is their power? Was very intriguing. So it's almost like they were dangling that in front of us to get to the end of the series when everything in between, watching Loki and Sylvie travel and that stuff didn't hit for me. Like when the one thing when they were wanted to try to board the train to ride over whatever, and even that I'm kind of forgetting it now. The freaking dragon or whatever that was, it was protecting. the you know, that stuff. It did not live up to it. And then introducing the Loki variants, uh the older guy, the black guy, the dog. I mean, not dog, the alligator. Yeah, that stuff didn't work for me. And see, from a comic book standpoint, I'm guessing, you know, people like that because of um, you know, the vintage Loki, the older guy with the, you know, and then, you know, I didn't particularly care for it. It wasn't bad, but it didn't live up. It was, I would have rather them spent some other time on some other stuff. Mobius was interesting. The I forget her name, the black woman who was like Mobius's boss, which obviously I think we haven't seen the last of her. Hopefully, she was interesting. The one that played the agent, the other black woman, brown skinned, you know, heavy set or stocky built woman. I liked her. I liked her a lot. She's a good actress. I liked her character. You know, and then the reveal that Mobius and all these agents were really just, was it that they were variants or something, or they were snatched from timelines and had their minds wiped to serve the purpose of the sacred timeline. I did like that. So there you go. Loki was like hit and miss for me. Um, but you know, for me to not have wanted, really cared about having this series in the first place, and the fact that it did introduce us to a sacred timeline and the concept of the multiverse and timelines and variants, that's about all it did for me, you know. And it's almost like, I don't know, that could have been done. I guess it was, well, I guess that was a good vehicle to do it through a series, because I'd have really been pissed if that had been a movie, to be honest with you. Um, so it was needed, and who better to do that with than Loki? Um, I didn't really think there'd be a season two, but yeah, there's definitely season two. And then the introduction of Jonathan Majors as Kang, or the one who remains, who will be a Kang. Kang was going to be one of the variants of this person. That was kind of dope. So in that, you know, that final episode of them meeting, it was good. That's where it's like the three. How many episodes was in? Was it? I think it was nine, maybe. I forget. But the point is, the 2 to 3 episodes prior to the last one were just you know, like I said, a lot of the Sylvie and Loki dynamic didn't hit for me at all. In fact, none of it did. To be honest, none of it did. Like Sylvie, I don't ever need to see Sylvie again, and I think that's what's kind of crazy, because she was supposed to be a Loki variant, and you know Tom Hiddleston is so great. It's like it's tough when you get when you gotta put you know, have that as your counterpart and you don't live up to it. You know, you don't bring it. So I'd be interested to see what other people's take was on Sylvie and her, you know, the actress and the character. Because I really haven't, you know, now that I think about it, I haven't read or heard too much ravings about her. Where it's like I have heard some ravings, you know, not saying a bunch of them, but I've definitely heard people praising the Elena Belova character, you know, and Florence Pugh's, you know, being introduced into the MCU. I haven't heard the same things about Sylvie. You know, I've heard good things about having Tiana Paris as Monica Rambeau. You know, so that kind of ought to let you know. Matter of fact, let me look at this. So I'm looking at it. This is the website Den of Geek. I had searched upcoming Marvel movies, so this is what came up. And I guess they're just breaking out movies and things that are come to come. So it's talking about Loki Season Two. It's revealed at the end of Marvel's multiverse bombing Loki. The God of Mischief will be back for a second season on Disney Plus after he and Sylvie changed the MCU forever in season one finale. That was a nice, very like eerie, haunting cliffhanger of an end of season one. You know, like it's like you could tell something got jacked up. And like I said, even that concept of him meeting and finally catching up to the one who remains, and like he's basically saying that was so. This is what the end of time looks like. Like this is the guy waiting at the end of time. Like the abstract concept of time. Again, it's ambitious for the MCU to even try to tackle this. And I guess that's the problem. If you're going to tackle some ambitious stuff, hence this concept is going to come up again when I start talking about the Eternals. If you're doing that kind of stuff, it's like hats off to y'all for trying, but when you don't hit it, it almost makes it worse. Um, but yeah, so that was a nice cliffhanger of an ending, and it was only one of the three statues or pillars. Uh, so I thought that was dope, and it was the Kang version, so that's dope. Which I remember recognizing that early on. I'm like, those three faces when they were doing the animated. What was it? What was her name? Miss Time or something? I forget. Miss Minutes or something. The little. I thought that was kind of like that was cute and funny in a way, but it actually don't make sense. Like, why in the world is there an animated character for such a serious concept? Like, if this is so serious as the keepers of the sacred timeline, why are you using a cartoon to describe stuff to these people? I felt like that was a little weird, but whatever. Um, it didn't kill it for me, but I felt like that was a little like what? And I think that was some kind of fan service to something that I'm not familiar with. Uh, but when she would pop up throughout the series after a while, it would have been cool in that first episode. It's almost like when Thor Ragnarok, when he was going through that tunnel, when he entered Sakaar and they had the voiceover, like you've reached, it's like on one hand that's funny, on another hand, then it's like the common sense in you says, why would this exist in a multi-dimensional, outer space environment? Something is that's what we do at amusement parks. So why would that exist in outer space? Why bring something so mundane and basic as a cartoon? Because even in the real world, those little things are kind of corny when you have to listen to the voiceover. And I get it. That's what was supposed to be the irony, the funny irony, comic, the comical irony of not comic book, but comical irony of here we are in space and they're still doing things like having a cartoon to tell you, like when they had a goofy character that tells you you're at the BMV. So I get it. It's just I don't know. That was like it didn't really hit for me. It worked in that one episode for a second. Like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. That's silly. But for that little clock character to keep popping up throughout the series, then you're like, am I watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Like this concept of live action interacting with animation. I'm not in favor of that. Like I hear people talk about wanting to see that done in a Spider Verse type way. I don't want to see that. But anyway, um, we do know that the director is not going to be coming back for the second season. Tom Hiddleston will be back, but they said that's the only, everything else is up in the air. Um, I would like to see Mobius. They said, yeah, want to see Owen Wilson reprise the role of Mobius and catch up with Sylvie again after her encounter with Heat. See, again, I'm not interested in Sylvie. I almost think Sylvie could work if they recast her, but this lady just, I don't know. Like I was like after a couple episodes, I'm like, she's really not entertaining, like at all. And like I said, it's even worse when you are playing opposite Tom Hiddleston. You gonna get outshined. So if you can't, give me something strong, you walking in tall weeds. You know what I mean? So, and Owen Wilson. Owen Wilson is a guy that has a lot of charisma, even in everything he does. He just brings a certain screen presence. He's like a really sincere, comical, earnest, type guy that you can connect with. And like I said, the light skinned lady who played in that, I even had more interest in her character, in the other black lady. So everybody was better than Sylvie, in my opinion. Looking forward to seeing Kang though in his Kang form from Jonathan Majors. Uh, the way he played that role in that last episode was, he was a really weird, eccentric dude climbing up on his chair and all that body language. At first it was a little jolting, like what the heck is this guy doing? But overall, I really enjoyed it. it fit the abstract nature of the series once again. So certain things hit and certain things didn't in terms of abstractisms of that series. Um, but realistically, I'm not in. It's like I'm not in a hurry to revisit it, but I probably will. I probably will in once I've finished seeing No Way Home. So now let's go to Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi, again, great movie, great introduction to a character. Loved seeing Abomination again. The mythology they set up in that movie was dope. Touching back on Mandarin in the Ten Rings, phenomenal. Even how he said, he made fun of the nickname the Mandarin as if to say, yeah, I've never been. That's not who I called myself. He said they named me after a chicken dish. Uh, good stuff, good stuff. I'm gonna kind of breeze through that just because what else can I say? It was a really good movie. Again, pound for pound, I'd probably throw in Black Widow before I throw in Shang-Chi, but and I know that may sound crazy to some people, but it's just, like I said, I'm a Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson mark, and because of the chemistry she had with Yelena, I love their chemistry. That alone is worth watching that movie over and over again. Alone. Um, so it's a slight edge. Shang-Chi is a better movie, definitely in terms of entertainment value, because of the concepts being introduced in the special effects and, mythology and, storyline, conflict between father and son. All of that was beautifully done. Score, the acting, the performances were great. Oh, what I really liked in that movie was his sister. Shang-Chi's little sister. I like her better than him, honestly. My man does need to work on, and I think I may have either made a video of it or posted it on one of my social media. He does, he could use a little help in his charisma department. And I think in ways like I was actually looking forward to with Chadwick Boseman, because, if you look back at Black Panther, people say that Shuri stole the movie and things like that, and to a degree, Okoye stole the movie. And that's because, yeah, he was playing it really straight. Like T'Challa, and I'm not saying he has to be funny and all this stuff, but I'm just saying in some ways, T'Challa was a little bland of a character. In some ways, he was getting outshined by Killmonger, by Shuri, by Okoye. But I always felt like, this is Chadwick Boseman. Let this dude warm up into the role. I I feel like he was going to have a prominent role in the MCU in just terms of showing, I don't, maybe lack of a better word, his versatility in the character, like expanding the character's dimensions. It's really almost parallel. I think he was going to be parallel. T'Challa and Chadwick playing him were going to be parallel to Chris Evans playing Captain America. You know what I mean? He was phenomenal in the first Avenger, Captain America: First Avenger. But by the time, think about it, by the time you saw him in Age of Ultron, particularly, I think by the time he made it back for Avengers: Age of Ultron, he was pretty much my favorite character in the MCU, which is crazy because it started out. I mean, because if you were to go before that, Thor was more interesting in his first movie. Obviously, Tony Stark is Tony Stark. Um, even in the movie The Avengers, like I still don't feel like Steve Rogers was, all that interesting. Uh, Bruce Banner was like stealing the show with him playing Banner and the Hulk. Not stealing the show, but he was more of an attention grabber or had more intrigue for me in that Avengers movie. Um, Now, America: Winter Soldier was a step further into developing his character, but again, the movie was very, there's so much going on with that movie because you had introduction of characters, you had Nick Fury, you had Black Widow, you introduced the Winter Soldier, you introduced Falcon, Sam Wilson, and Anthony Mackie is like a person. Yeah, you get on screen with him, he might steal your shine. That's the type of actor he is and the charisma he has. So think about that. That's a lot for Chris Evans to contend with. But even with that, by the time they got together for Avengers Age of Ultron. Again, for me, that's when I really started to appreciate his character. Like he was showing layers of um, depth in that role that really started to shine, in my opinion. So that's how I felt like Chad was going to be. Like with each movie, he was going to become this dude where he was more beloved. So by the time you had Civil War, you had a Team Cap versus Team Tony. That's why they were able to do that. That's why they were able to pull that off. And again, I don't know if that was by design or just by Chris Evans' growth in the role or what, or the writing, whatever. It was there. Like if they'd have tried to do Civil War after the first Avengers movie, and you do a Team Cap, Team Iron Man, it would have been all Iron Man. Who the heck really wanted to be on Captain America's side at that point? But by the time they did Civil War, I was fully a Captain America fan. Like there wasn't even a question. So yeah, what was I saying with that? um, but yeah, I feel like Simu Liu, if I pronounced that right, Shang-Chi, he hopefully he has that kind of development like Chris Evans did. And again, this ain't even a knock on Chris Evans. I'm just saying the Captain America role was not the most entertaining, even though he was great in it. It was like you could tell it was a natural, organic progress of the way he was being written and the performance, expanding what he could do and say, and show us some versatility in his emotions, basically. Um, that's what I'm hoping happens with Shang-Chi, because again, otherwise he did lack some charisma to be a leading character. Let's jump to Eternals. Um, I did a review coming out of the movies. I threw it on my I think Facebook Live. I'm gonna just be brief with this. Like that movie, mm, there's a lot going on in that, and in fact I'm not even gonna talk about the Eternals because I'm just gonna watch this movie again because I'm already almost up on my hour, and I haven't really done a state of the MCU because I'm gonna just jump into what's coming. The state of the MCU right now, I'll put it like this: the introduction of the Celestials in Eternals, that's the most significant thing there. I don't really know where the heck they're gonna go with that. I mean, other than thinking that, dang, I forgot the name of the it starts with an A, the Celestial that was communicating with Ajax. Look at this, I can't even remember the characters from that movie. Selma Hayek's character, that dude or whatever you want to call it, Celestial. Those are some scary freaking beings. Um, but I'm guessing that has to be like the next big bad villain or threat to humanity for phase 4 and 5 or whatever. That introduction is probably the most significant thing. The Deviants and the Eternals as characters, even now having a month after seeing that movie, I didn't really connect or get excited about any of those characters. I'm gonna be honest with you, any of them. Would I go see the sequel? Sure, especially with the way it ended. That who the heck was it that got wrapped up and sucked away or something? Like because they have to answer for their betrayal or whatever. Um, the Kit Harrington, the character he was playing was probably one of the more interesting people coming out of that. And in that post-credit scene, it's been confirmed. I remember wanting to do a video because I thought I was on to something. I'm like, I heard something that nobody else probably was able to guess so far. I mean, I knew it wouldn't be nobody. I knew there'd be lots of people who heard it, but I thought we'd be in the minority of people who immediately recognized. Like, as soon as I heard that voice in the movie theater, I was like, that was Mahershala Ali. So that was sick. Getting a Blade voice cameo in the post-credit scene. Um, wasn't really the place you would expect it, but I don't know who the character Black Knight is or none of that stuff. So if there's a connection there, I guess I should have possibly seen that coming or at least see how it ties in. Right now, I have no idea why or how it ties in, and I don't care. This is where I have faith in the MCU to fill in the blanks on why that dude's character should have anything to do with Blade in an Eternals movie. But this is what they're so genius at doing. you got Eternals, but then you're introducing this guy. I guess he's from a long line of Excalibur, knights or something. I have no idea. And then somehow that connects to Blade. So however I'm like I'm here for it. Whatever, however y'all are gonna connect Blade to this character, it's almost like a 6 degrees of separation. It's not so much that Blade has a connection to the Eternals. It's just if this guy who who fell in love with Cersei while she's been living as a person amongst people, I should say, you know, he would have a reason to have connection to Blade. Well, then fine, let's go. I'm here for it. So I'm just gonna get into what I'm really looking forward to going forward. I'm first of all, first thing I'm definitely looking forward to. It has been and continues to be my most anticipated project of the Phase 4 slate. When they first announced it at Comic Con 2018, or maybe it was 2019. Yeah, it was 2019. And now, yeah, Comic Con 2019, which was after Endgame had come out. You know, that was when they introduced Mahershala Ali as Blade, all that stuff. But Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, when that title came out, coming out of Endgame and Infinity War, he's my guy in the MCU. If Tony's if Steve Rogers is gone because he was my guy, if the Hulk's role's gonna be diminished, if Thor, even though he got another sequel, but he's gonna be diminished. Let's face it. And if Tony's gone and Cap are gone, then Doctor Strange is my guy. It was gonna be Doctor Strange and T'Challa for me, and of course Spider-Man. But there's still weird things about where Spider-Man's going. Um, yeah, if that's what what I mean, it's like that was my most anticipated project, and it still is. So I'm waiting for that movie. I think it's gonna be dope. But other than that, now since we've had announcements here in January, or since 2021 started, Moon Knight. That's my next anticipated. I don't even know nothing about this character really. I've heard people talk about him for years. My guy, rest in peace. My favorite dudes to follow on the YouTube when it comes to this genre, the movie genre, the comic book genre, was John Schnepp when he was on Collider. He used to talk about Moon Knight. Robert Meyer Burnett, who's another guy, he would talk about Moon Knight, and they made him sound dope. You know, and I used to get all basically my info on what's the significance of Moon Knight from them. Then the casting of Oscar Isaac, definitely enjoy that. Like that dude. He was one of my favorite parts about the new Star Wars movies. Uh, then just things like tying it to Egypt and things like that. That intrigues me, and it's a darker character. Even the look of him, it's pretty dope. Hooded character and all this stuff. So that's my actually most anticipated Disney Plus series to come. Then you have She-Hulk. That's another thing I'm highly anticipating. Um, oh, let's talk about that. The Shang-Chi post-credit scene with seeing Bruce Banner as Bruce Banner. Like, and this is where you can tell things got shuffled out of order. Because really, we should have an answer to that by now. Like it's kind of crazy to see that. And we're not going to get any follow up on that until She-Hulk drops, apparently. Um, like that's the next time you're going to hear anybody revisit what's going on with Bruce Banner, naturally. Now, I'm guessing She-Hulk is going to probably be the next series. I would hope so. Ms. Marvel's coming, but that's like Captain Marvel's sequel is so far back now because things got pushed back again. That movie's not even coming out until 2023 now. So they might as well I don't care if Ms. Marvel's finished, you should put that on the shelf unless there's stuff introduced in that series that ties to some of these other movies that are coming. You know what I mean? Like Thor or Doctor Strange, or what's the other movie we should be getting next year? Oh, Black Panther, which that seems to be up in the air. Those are the three movies supposed to come out in 2022. So unless she has Ms. Marvel series has a tie to those, they should just wait and put her series out at the end of 2022. Around this time next year. Because otherwise, yeah, we need to get into this She-Hulk. I would think. That should be the next series to come out. Or it could be Moon Knight, because from what I understand, those two shows they're well into production. They're definitely probably close to being finished. But we see Bruce Banner with a sling, and it just kind of at first I remember it going over my head like, wait, why is this dude in his Bruce Banner form? You see, there's kind of a Avengers collection now, because what was it? Him and who the heck was it? It was him and Captain Marvel, yeah. Um, so they're bringing Shang-Chi into all of this stuff. Oh, that little Bing thing that they said the Ten Rings is communicating to. Let me throw this theory out there. Um, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is not that going out on much of a limb, but is it just me or is maybe Galactus? Maybe. Um, cause or some other cosmic being, either Galactus or Silver Surfer. That I mean, I'd have to assume it's something cosmic. It's gonna be, it's not gonna be attracting Doctor Doom or the X-Men. I don't think Magneto. I don't think it's like waking them up because these are Earthbound characters. So that's my theory. Is it's planting a very early seed towards Galactus, who may be coming in Phase 5. I mean, he may come after the Celestials. You see what I'm trying to say? Um, yeah, just a thought. Um, but I love that early seed planting, just like they did with Thanos at the end of Avengers. Or heck, I mean, when you first saw the Tesseract in Captain America: First Avenger, who would have known this movie that thing would then end up playing a part in Thor, the first Thor movie. You know what I mean? So um, or such a big part of the Avengers, the 2012 movie. I mean, let's face it, that's what the whole movie was about. Really, was Loki coming to get the Tesseract. Now that I'm thinking about it, and they talked about the Tesseract in Thor, and yet it was on Earth. So that connective tissue, we're gonna keep your eyes on it. Basically, the way I look at it, and I think that was our first little sprinkling of you know, the idea that there's going to be some connective tissues that you got to pay attention to the Easter eggs of setting up. And again, another slow build connecting other movies as far as what did the Ten Rings, what is their activation? Who is that signaling, or how, who's because they're talking about how they still can't figure out what the material is or something, or what it's made of. So interesting stuff. And I think the vibranium in Black Panther probably would be and may still be brought into that mythology or whatever they're talking about. But perhaps not. Um, wow, I don't remember this. I'm looking at Daredevil. What is this? What am I looking at right here? Anyway, um, I'm definitely have some things to say about Daredevil too. Some theories that I have about that. Um, so with the state of the MCU, there's a couple more things I really want to discuss. One is the newest kind of developments that are Daredevil related. The other one is a kind of elephant in the room, but every so often it gets forgotten about, but then it comes up again. Is the Black Panther situation. So I'm going to talk about Daredevil first, because I'll jump into Hawkeye right now. Let's talk about Hawkeye because now we're kind of caught up actually. So yeah. So basically, my anticipated series coming up, Secret Wars. I'm looking forward to Secret Wars as well. Armor Wars, let's just face it. On paper, I think it'll be good, especially if they bring back Justin Hammer. I mean, I like Don Cheadle as Rhodey, and I'm sure it'll be a good show on some ground level. Matter of fact, I'm looking at on the screen. I'm scrolling down. Phase 4 projects. I didn't coincidentally. I'm looking at Don Cheadle will reprise his role as Rhodey and have a solo spotlight in the War Machine armor in a series that deals with a nightmare scenario for the MCU. What if Tony Stark's Iron Man technology fell into the wrong hands and was getting duplicated by villains? It's based on a comic run called Armor Wars. So I think that could be a very dope series, just on some ground level. Since the MCU is good at what they do in terms of like mimicking or giving you a version of different genres, so you know, if you know what I'm talking about, how they make Doctor Strange is a supernatural kind of movie. I think this definitely this movie coming up is going to be a supernatural. Or Spider-Man Homecoming was a teen dramedy, uh, John Hughes esque. Falcon Winter Soldier and Captain America Winter Soldier were like more like spy, espionage, government, questionable government type storylines. Thor, their first Thor was just a straight up fantasy movie. Kind of a romance too. That kind of concept. Black Panther had the Afrocentric vibe and had a little bit of a cultural, um, history in terms of colonizers and things. There's a little undertone of that, in that storyline. Ant-Man was a heist movie. Guardians of the Galaxy was like a space opera movie, that kind of thing. How they're able to do that. So Armor Wars, or and of course WandaVision making their show out to be a sitcom. You know, the genius of the Marvel Studios upper echelon of creativity, who sends out these edicts for what stuff's gonna be, they're phenomenal. So that Armor Wars is probably gonna be very good. I'm just saying, I'm not hyped or at all. When it comes, I'll be ready for it. It'll probably be a good show. Ultimately, probably won't be one of my favorites just because the nature of it isn't the most exciting prospect for me. And it's still weird that they even had Rhodey go through what he went through with the paralysis. If he's just gonna be right back in the suit, like his career should have, where are the consequences? Where are the stakes? This dude, he's just back at it with what cybernetic. I mean, he's probably gonna be healed. They're probably gonna come away with how he's over that now. And that's part of the MCU's problem is not having enough lasting effect on people. Because hell, Hulk is ultimately, in my opinion, gonna regain his arm. Now this is one I need them to do because I thought it was bull crap, bullshit. In fact, how they did him, the Russo brothers. I like everything they do, but it just seems like they particularly are the ones who kind of are steering this thing where they just don't really care about giving the Hulk a lot of material or anything important or kind of downplaying him. Yeah, the way they did him in Infinity War and Endgame is the single biggest problem I have with how the Infinity Saga ended. It's really ultimately it's one of my biggest reasons why I can't enjoy Endgame. In fact, um, there's no payoff with that. And then they had us think this dude is done, with his raggedy arm. But I've read articles and rumors. That's probably why I have to do a part two of this because I'm not even getting into in depth with the stuff that's out there in the reports. For those of y'all who may not, I can be your reporter to kind of relay information that you may not be nerdy enough to keep up with. Um, and there's so much stuff out there. There's a lot of it speculation, and I try not to operate from a speculation. I try to go from I wait until it comes from a good source before I start talking about it. I don't even acknowledge the gossipy rumors until I only reference those to debunk them with the better information, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, there's talk. Now these are legitimate talks from in my opinion from the sources I've seen, and I don't have them off the top of my head. That's why I said I could do a part two and go in more depth about where those come from. But yeah, they are hinting that we're gonna get a World War Hulk type storyline, in that we are gonna see him back to a Hulk that's Hulk smash. And that is kind of funny because I do have to look at it like I guess when you put a director in charge, directors like the Russos, and they do some other stuff, you kind of have to let them do it because you can always let them do it and like, okay, well, we'll just undo that later. That is kind of the beauty of the looseness of the MCU and comic book source material, comic book related material anyway. Nothing's in concrete. Any of these characters can be brought back with a loophole because I do believe Captain America and Iron Man will be back on in some form or another. But definitely, it looks like the Hulk will get a chance to, especially if they're bringing in the X-Men and Wolverine. They know people want to see a Wolverine versus Hulk moment. So, um, that being said, uh, where was I going with this? Well, I was talking about anticipated stuff. Uh, yeah, that's what it was. So, I was talking about the consequences of Rhodey being injured, and then he's just been operating like normal since then with what do you want to call it? Enhancements to help him. He didn't even have them in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Well, I guess he does underneath his suit in Falcon and Winter Soldier. But we'll get more updates on how that's working out for him. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he's like 100% healed, which would be kind of corny. But I'd be willing to overlook it if they put on a good show. But I am definitely looking more forward to Secret Wars with Luke Cage. Luke Cage? Nick Fury, I mean. Well, that was just Freudian slip. I'm not even going to talk about Luke Cage because there's really nothing to talk about. But yeah, Nick Fury, I'm thinking Nick and Luke, but Nick Fury and the Skrulls. I'm looking forward to that. And then, really, yeah, to be honest, it's kind of like it was with the first set of Disney Plus shows. The only ones I was really ever looking forward to was WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier to a degree, and yeah, that was pretty much it. Like Loki and Hawkeye, I was not really looking forward to because they're both characters I didn't necessarily need to see a series on them. So it's kind of the same thing. She-Hulk, Moon Knight, Secret Wars. Those are the ones I'm interested in. Ironheart and even like the Wakanda Forever series. It's like, without any real understanding what that's going to be, I don't have no reason to anticipate that. I just don't. So, and I don't know if I'm forgetting any other series. Oh, Echo. Yeah, Echo. So let's talk about Echo and Hawkeye. Hawkeye, again, to be honest, it's just this very mediocre series. But it's cool because I didn't have a lot of expectation. I did like the trailers. Did like thought it was hilarious the concept of Rogers the musical, and they did a good job with it. They didn't overkill in having it featured in the show. It played a little part in one of the episodes, and it perfectly fit. It was used perfectly in the series so far, and I'm pretty sure that was the last we're gonna see of it mentioned. Just showing how the world is out here that they would turn the Avengers story into a musical. You know, great job. Give you a quick laugh and be like, good, move on. They did great at that. That's almost like how I described the time, the Miss Minutes or whatever her name was. But the problem was she popped up again in the series. You see what I'm saying? That's what I didn't really care for. The biggest thing I'll say about Hawkeye, first two episodes were like I'm like, yo, come on, y'all. I did kind of like the little underground auction. I liked the introduction of Armand and Jack. I don't know. I tend to like these ethnic characters, Greeks and people that look like they're of a, more non-American background. I like stuff like that. You should be introducing that into the MCU. Again, no offense, but American, typical Anglo-Saxon white dudes. Come on now. Can we, let's expand the type of characters we see in here. From an ethnic nationality, race, you know, any of that from that standpoint. Um, the so I kind of like those introductions, those characters, but then spoiler alert, I'm about to spoil some stuff from Hawkeye. By the way, is what I'm saying. I should have mentioned that. But I mean, at this point, there's only one episode left. So if you haven't caught up to episode five, and I'm talking about the state of the MCU, you probably maybe don't want to watch this. Anyway, like this video is for people who are caught up to everything that needs to be caught up to at this point. You know what I'm saying? Short of maybe seeing Spider-Man No Way Home, because I haven't seen it yet. So this is the state of the MCU going into that movie, and like I said, I'll probably have to talk about it again coming out of that movie. But yeah, killing Armand that early was kind of a letdown. Um, the let me just jump to this introduction of, since let's face it, the point of Hawkeye leading in the premise, when I read about it, heard about it, this is another thing, didn't really interest me. That the premise is that Hawkeye's going to take what do you call it, a underling, take on a mentorship of a someone under his wing. Kate Bishop, if you're comic book aficionado, that means something to you. To me, it didn't mean anything. I'm just like, okay, cool. I mean, I get it. You've got to move on to the next generation of characters. The MCU has to evolve past the original six Avengers, right? Of course, you see it happening. Two of them are dead. One of them, I guess, that's another thing about Captain America. I'm thinking like they're trying to help us assume, because he was old man at the end of Endgame, that he's dead as well. He passed away. I mean, I didn't know super soldiers could pass away, but whatever. He finally aged, apparently. Um, so yeah, you've got essentially three of the original six dead. One of them is incapacitated. He's debilitated, meaning the Hulk, as if like we're not going to see the Hulk of old. Uh, and Thor's otherworldly anyway, so he's off-world, I should say. So it just leaves Hawkeye really. So anyway, he wants to retire. He was trying to retire before Infinity War. He was in retirement in Infinity War, right? Basically. Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so that premise didn't excite me. Um, but it was like, well, it's the next series. I'll watch it. And so here I go. I'll watch it, and I'm watching it, and I'm thinking this is not interesting me. My first thoughts on Kate Bishop, the character, Haley Steinfeld. Haley Steinfeld. I'll talk about her second. Let's talk about the character. The character of Kate Bishop. I mean, she didn't really resonate with me in the first couple episodes. The jury was out. There's a little charm to her character. You know, the setup and the best thing I liked about this show, and even after this point, and having seen episode five, the best thing about this series was them showing the flashback. And I'm a mark for the I love the ties to history. I love continuity. I love it when they literally show how this connects to something from the past. That is by far, besides the character moments and besides the use of humor when it's done right. And then I might say third is fight choreography, because some movies they are just phenomenal with it. Shang-Chi, Civil War, Winter Soldier, what would be the Black Panther? Well, maybe not Black Panther. But yeah, they've been really good with fight choreography. But yeah, anyway, so like probably fourth on my list is the Easter eggs and the fan service, of just it's all connected. Always making sure you see that connection. Some people may be like, we get it. Why does everything always have to be tied? I'm not that guy. The fact that they immediately tied it to Kate Bishop watching the events of the attack on New York from the first Avengers movie, I loved it. I marked out when I saw that, because I just visually, it blows my mind when I see how they do that, and you're showing footage from this movie and seeing it from other people's perspectives. That's an aspect of movies that you rarely get to see. Like, and why wouldn't they do that? You have to continuously see how this crap has affected people. The same way they keep using the snap. I'm not calling it the blip, but how they keep using the snap in showing different characters, um, how they went through it. I just think I love it. I love it. I'm here for it every time. It's what made me really love how they were starting out with the Netflix series. Of course, that's another concept or topic. debate on how they're connected and maybe they're not, and obviously if you know the details behind Marvel Entertainment slash Marvel Television bumping heads with Marvel Studios, who are literally separate entities. One was handling TV and comic books. The other one was movies strictly. And now Kevin Feige's merged everything and he's overseeing everything, which I think was a great move. But yeah, it does make sense that they've had conflicts when it's just like people with strong visions over here and people with strong visions over here. I mean, it's like it's not that you're hating on each other. It's just and to some degree it's bound to be natural competition, inherent, you know what I mean, subconscious competition. But it's just I think at the end of the day, I think for Kevin Feige, it's about the integrity of what he's trying to do creatively, and he don't want it interfered with or diminished or anything. I mean, case in point, Iron Fist series, which as a whole is not terrible, but there's just too much thing. There's too much that's terrible about it. How about that? The Inhumans is garbage. So when you have things like Iron Fist, like I said, as a whole, the Inhumans, and then be honest, even the Defenders, like looking back, it didn't live up to what it should have been. Like, and I'm sure this is the sort of thing Kevin Feige is looking like. I built up the Avengers, a payoff of characters coming together. So Netflix did a smaller scale version, which was the Defenders. You know what I'm saying? Like that didn't hit. Even though the Defenders was a pretty good series, but I haven't watched it. I've seen it one time, never really had a desire to go back to it. But part of that problem is because of people like Iron Fist. He's not interesting in his own series. So what the heck do I care about seeing him combined with these other people? It shined on the fact that Luke Cage wasn't all that. And now I'm thinking about, did Luke Cage season two come after the Defenders? So it's only like we only got one season of those two guys before they were put in the Defenders. Um, you know what I mean? And then Jessica Jones was cool, and so was Daredevil. So it's like half of your squad wasn't really all that in the first place. Yeah, I believe, yeah, I'm almost sure that Luke Cage season two takes place or it came after the Defenders. And had we had the Defenders after Luke Cage season two, yeah, in fact, it definitely did. It definitely did because Luke Cage season two ended kind of on a open-ended note, which we wouldn't have been open-ended if we would have seen him in Defenders afterwards. So yeah, there you go. So it was kind of an ill-fated, not well executed process over there. So that's the kind of thing to me that exemplifies why Kevin would be protective of his stuff. I gotta kind of wrap this up. So, with that being said, because I probably will just have to do a part two, and then the part two can just include my thoughts coming out of No Way Home, because I've really covered a lot of what I wanted to anyway. But yeah, the the series Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, yeah, it's like she kind of was getting on my nerves because she's like cocky. Parts of me were just like, why don't you settle down? Like, it was a little bit comedic. I remember seeing some of the ads and previews of how she's trying to impress Hawkeye, crashing through the window, landing on the ground, and all that, and being a little comical as a young girl who's actually kind of a cocky, overconfident, but she's kind of messing up, but she's never going to acknowledge that she's messing up character. It's one of those things where in those short doses, I was like, okay, that dynamic is probably going to be good. Then when I saw it in real time, drawn out over his episode, it became annoying to me. Um, but I'll say this last thing about this series, and I mean, I don't know, it's just Clint, getting this solo spotlight. It's not doing him any favors. It's not making it worse, but I'm not getting any more out of him like I did watching Sam. Watching Bucky and Sam get a chance to have a series, I think benefited those characters greatly. It's not doing the same thing for Clint, in my opinion. I like the introduction of him having a hearing problem. Little things like that is cool. But obviously, I'd have to get fast forward. Oh, the introduction to Echo at first was kind of dope, but yeah, she's been on for 2 or 3 episodes, and it's like each passing moment, I'm getting less interested in her. Especially when you bring in my girl Yelena. When they brought her in, that whole scene, I mean, she's back on point. Her charm and that dry, and she's cocky. Now her cockiness is freaking dope and sexy and hilarious and badass. The way she laughs at, that scene with them eating the macaroni is charming, it's witty, it's genius. That's that MCU magic that they make those mundane moments. Like she's dead serious about making macaroni and cheese, but the conversation is like that scene was good. So with that being said, Haley Steinfeld is kind of winning me over with each episode. It's just that Kate Bishop's character is not winning me over with each episode. So hopefully at some point those merge and really make me interested in Kate Bishop. But I think a lot of that's going to be based on writing. They have to write some stuff that'll make her more likable for me because Haley Steinfeld, yeah, as I like her acting, like her acting as each episode goes, I'm like, okay, she's got the stuff. She's got the MCU charisma, so their casting is still good. She's an interesting person to want to watch. She's easy on the eyes, very very pretty girl. Like the more I look at her, and in a natural way, no like glam. She's just got some nice features and just a good looking young lady. Um, and like I said, when you can act and do the nonverbal acting, just ties in. So she is a enchanting presence on the screen. I'm beginning to realize that when I watch her play opposite her mother, opposite Jack, opposite Clint. The scene with her and Elena though, that was like putting two people together. Now it's like now I'm seeing the chemistry because it's hard because Elena and Florence Pugh, like I said, playing it, she's a tough act to follow. It's like she's almost coming across like our Robert Downey Jr. does. And this would be a good analogy. Robert Downey Jr. is so skilled at his role, you would have thought like him and Chris Hemsworth, like at first it is a little bit of a lean edge to Robert Downey Jr. But over time, by the time Age of Ultron came around, Thor's character and Chris Hemsworth's ability playing the character, he could hold his own with Robert Downey Jr. in the role of Tony Stark. You see what I'm saying? So I felt like Haley had that moment with that scene, signs, hints at that moment of her having that growth to hold her own against a character or an actress like in that situation. So there's potential for her. So I'm thinking Marvel has that long game, when they cast her, that's what they're gonna do. She'll be a good successor to Clint. So last thing I'm going to talk about was a revelation, without even getting into all the speculation that led up to it, um, of the Kingpin, because I really do want to go into more detail. But I'd be remiss if I'm talking about Hawkeye series. We up to episode 5, and I don't even mention the point. The biggest moment of episode 5 was the reveal of Kingpin. I think it's awesome. I've been of the mindset that they would do this. I always felt like, based on the success of that Daredevil series, that Kevin Feige is a smart man. He believes in good casting. He's shown that. He is about good casting. Like you can't just dime a dozen think you're gonna find people to play certain characters. Especially since these dudes had just started. Now, Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine is a different topic. Andrew Garfield playing Spider-Man, different topic. For different reasons. But these two, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, it's like you have to bring these cats back in these roles. So they're about the only two, other than, to me, Kristen Ritter is Jessica Jones. And at this point, I believe she's going to be back. It'd be dope to see if it plays out the way I'm going to predict it. And I'll predict that in another video because I don't want to get ahead of myself. But Vincent D'Onofrio coming back, it's like, come on, please. Thank you, Kevin. Do the right thing. Duh, no brainer. You're dope because you do what's smart. welcome the man back. It's gonna be dope. I can't wait to see this dude back on screen in this role. And this was a good spot to bring him back. Um, the seeds were planted. I don't know about Echo, but people were saying, well, if they're doing an Echo series, Kingpin is has a connection to her, so there must be going to be a Kingpin introduced into the MCU. But is it going to be Vincent D'Onofrio? So we got our answer. Even that little way they did it with a fuzzy picture on a cell phone. I mean, I had to rewind it like 5 times because how do you make that? How do you do that quick? Like interesting little, like I see y'all. So y'all gonna set it up and just drop it. It was like kind of a weak setup, but that's what makes it so dope is they didn't do it the normal way with a big setup, of a big reveal. It's just like it was a big reveal, but in a most simplest little quick rinky dink kind of way. But that makes it dope in my opinion. So all I'm gonna say is going into this Spider-Man movie, I believe that this is what I've been believing for a while now, that Spider-Man's being set up to exit the MCU. I hate to say it, and there's been newer developments since I started thinking this that maybe it's not that way. But again, maybe I should talk more about that in the. Well, I want to get these predictions out beforehand. Yeah, so let's keep going. I think I have been thinking. I'm not as certain anymore because of newest stories coming out from Sony and Amy Pascal and all this stuff, and even Kevin Feige comments that like maybe we just don't know. But I've felt ever since watching Venom, and that's not part of my state of the MCU because I just don't consider Venom MCU. I get it. Obviously, there's a post-credit scene in Venom. I didn't even do a review of Venom: Let There Be Carnage because that movie was blah to me, you know. But I wasn't a big fan of the first one. So, but obviously the post-credit scene opened the door that there's going to be a connection. But again, we already knew we got a Doctor Strange multiverse movie. We already knew that Spider-Man No Way Home was going to have multiverse implications because of the announcements that they were open about the villains. Jamie Foxx playing Electro and Alfred Molina playing Doc Ock. That there was some shuffling, or there's gonna be some weird tinkering going on with these movies. So, um, and if you follow behind the scenes, that the deal that Marvel slash Disney has with Sony only has one more Spider-Man movie, which is this one going to see tonight, in another appearance in another MCU movie. That's all that's left. And to me, when I heard about this was over a year ago. To me, it's like, well, yeah, it's going to be his next solo movie, and Doctor Strange is in his movie. He'll probably be in Doctor Strange's movie. There you go. Multiverse of Madness. There's how you get Spider-Man out of the MCU because there's going to be a multiverse. Duh. That stuff is like no brainer. I don't, when I'm on these pages and listen to people just talking like they don't, like they can't see that being pretty apparent. I don't get it. So that's all. To me, the Venom thing was just that. It wasn't that Venom's brought into the MCU. It's that Venom has to be connected to the MCU for a second so that they can snatch Spider-Man back out. And that's what I'm expecting to see the seeds planted in this movie. The door will kind of be open, and then I think the movie Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness will somehow confirm and be the confirmation and culmination of Spider-Man's exit from the MCU into now being in Sony movies. How they're going to do that, I have no idea, but that's what I'm expecting from this movie. I do expect to see Tobey Maguire and Alfred, Alfred, Alfred Molina. Yeah, I am going to see him, but no, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. I do think both of them are in this movie. I think at this point, and that's pretty much the only surprise. I honestly don't necessarily think Charlie Cox is going to be in this. If Charlie Cox is in this movie as Daredevil, I'm going to mark out. That is for sure. I'm telling you that right now. I will mark out over that. Now my laptop is about to die. I thought I had enough battery power. Quickly connect this. But yeah, if that happens, I'm more excited to see that than I am the idea of them doing multiple Spider-Man angle that everybody's been so hyped about for over about a year now. I'm looking for that Charlie Cox, but I'm honestly not expecting it. So that would be just, and I've heard no spoilers. I've heard people speculate that he will be, but it's going so back and forth at this point. I don't really anticipate seeing it, and I'm okay with it. So if he is, that's literally icing on the cake. And I expect this to be a really good movie. I think it's going to be the best Spider-Man movie ever. I think this will be better than Spider-Man 2, which for me is the best Spider-Man movie. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2. Um, I definitely know it's going to be better than Homecoming and Far From Home because MCU is good at making better sequels. That's pretty much it, y'all. So I will see y'all in some form or another late night tonight slash early Saturday. Um, Indefinitely with probably something quick and then something more extensive after that on some at some point on Saturday. Shoot, I might have to go see the movie again sometime Saturday. Depends on how mind blowing this thing is. But when I do that, I'll probably do a Spider-Man No Way Home review on its own and do a state of the MCU part 2. All right. Thanks for checking in, y'all. Leave a comment on anything I said and like, share the video, and subscribe, please. I'm trying to get back in the game in 2022. More content from DC and Marvel, and amongst other things that are in my nerd scope of nerdism on my nerd radar. A few ideas thinking about covering different topics, creating playlists and all that stuff for my content. That's it, y'all. It's going down. Only about 2 hours away now. Spider-Man No Way Home. And that's the thing. The name is called No Way Home. I think they're setting you up. He's gonna have no way home in terms of what we've seen his home be in the MCU. Um, oh, I do expect to see some reference to Venom uh, in this movie, and that's pretty much it. I do think we're gonna see the other two Spider-Mans. I mean, I just think, come on, it's a no-brainer to me. If the villains are there, they're going to be there. And we know that there's a footage, if you follow it, of a Brazilian trailer that shows that somebody is clearly attacking or hitting the lizard in the head. And it's like in the trailer we see there's it's like he's getting hit by the air. Now it could be Doc Ock. I do have a theory that Doc Ock is going to be redeemed through this storyline of this or through the plot of this movie to help Spider-Man. But I still think those other two guys are going to show up. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I would love to see a hint at Osborn, but that might be too much for one movie. But I do expect a Venom somehow. Venom, not Morbius, maybe Morbius, but a Venom somehow connection. Um, and who knows, a Charlie Cox appearance maybe. All right, y'all. Peace out. Can't wait. It's gonna be dope. This was my second most anticipated movie of Phase 4. By the way, it was Doctor Strange, and then Spider-Man, then Thor movie, um, then technically Blade. Really, I'm looking more forward to Blade than I was Eternals, than I was Shang-Chi. Looking forward to that than the Marvels, Ant-Man, or Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think next is like Doctor Strange, this Spider-Man movie here, Thor movie, then Ant-Man. That's how I'm anticipating the movies that are on the slate. Well, I mean Blade, then Ant-Man as far as movies coming up on this Phase 4 slate. Knowing that we don't know anything about Fantastic Four or X-Men, and the Black Panther thing is so up in the air that I can't even hardly highly anticipate it anymore. Unfortunately, due to Chad Chadwick Boseman passing, and I didn't get to touch on the points I wanted to make about Black Panther. So I'll touch on that in the part 2 video, y'all. Peace out.